All right, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Open Book Broadcast. I'm Allie, the boss over at The Right Place, Right Time, my virtual boutique of writing and ghostwriting services for badass and brilliant women ready to brave the path to the page and tell their stories that will change the effing world. I am here today with my very special guest, Melanie Herschorn, a book marketing expert and strategist. And I'm so excited. We were just whooping it up here behind the scenes before we went live. So we have lifted our energy despite the fact that Melanie is waking up at 7 o'clock her time to join me here live. So let's introduce Melanie properly. Melanie Herschorn wants to make your book and brand sparkle online. As a content marketing strategist for coaches, consultants, and speakers worldwide, she's on a mission to support and empower her clients to create clear messaging and content that shines a light on their individuality, skill set, and books. With her unique combination of entrepreneurship, award-winning journalism, and PR experience, Melanie guides her clients to attract and nurture leads and position themselves as industry experts. She also loves to provide book marketing tips and interview authors on her show, Authority Marketing Live. And yes, that's a play on words, Authority Marketing Live. Welcome, Melanie.
Hi, Allie. I'm so excited to be here now that we've woken up.
Now that we woke, I know. I'm glad that we started 15 minutes ahead of going live so that we could just have some sips of coffee and get it together.
Cheers.
Cheers. So Melanie, why don't you just start by telling our viewers a little bit about you, not the business stuff, the fun stuff.
Okay, the fun stuff. Okay, so I am in Phoenix, Arizona. I am a mom of two crazy people who I love very much. One of whom thinks that she's a teenager, even though she's only 10 and she sleeps till 11 now in the summertime. And the other one is 8 and he wakes up at 4 in the morning. So they actually coexist for only 8 hours a day.
Helps.
Yeah, a little bit less fighting. So I started in book marketing because of a whole bunch of stuff that happened to me in my life. I began after college. I ran away to LA from Canada to work in PR, and I walked red carpets, and it was really great until a famous redheaded comedian told me off on my birthday twice. And at that point I was like, end scene, I am done.
Okay, wait, before you move on, what was she telling you off about? What did you do to piss her off, Melanie?
Okay, so it wasn't even my fault. So I've always been very diligent. Even a 23-year-old Melanie was the same as this 43-year-old Melanie. So her assistant said, she's going to be in New York this date to this date. So I went ahead and I booked radio shows for her for those dates. Then she comes back and says, those aren't the dates I'm going to be there. And I said, well, your assistant told me. And she started yelling at me that how dare I accuse her assistant when it's really my fault. And I remember saying, well, do you want to talk to my boss? She was like, yes, I do. And I'm like, okay. And shortly thereafter, I was like, sayonara. I'm out of here.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. All right. So where did you go from there?
So then I said, you know what? I've always wanted to be a journalist. And I did it. So I got a job at a local newspaper in LA while applying for graduate school. And I got into USC and I got my master's of journalism, which when I say it in one sentence, it sounds a whole lot easier than it was. It was actually like going through war. It was really hard. But so then around that time, my husband and I had started dating. We got married. He moved to Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. I was still in LA. So we did long distance for a year. Our first year of marriage was on opposite coasts. And then I had to move to Harrisburg, Pennsylvania when I graduated. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to look at the bright side because that's usually how I operate. I needed to move to a small market to get a job right off the bat. And here I am. So what ends up happening? Well, maybe a little universe, dear universe, there's a plug for your book. And maybe a little bit of, me and my hustle. And I got a job at the local NPR affiliate. And I started out in classical music, didn't know much about it, and ultimately ended up their afternoon news anchor and reporter.
Oh, fun.
which was amazing. I loved it. I hated it. I loved it. It was all the things. And then I was like, okay, well, I'm 32. I want a baby. I'm really going deep here. I hope that's okay.
Oh my God. This is an open book podcast.
Okay, that's true. I am an open book, so I belong here, but also I don't want to just like go into the weeds and then like, because usually like I gloss over this part when I tell.
Oh my gosh, no.
Okay.
This is like the juicy stuff we all love.
So I'm like, I want a baby. But I didn't want to interfere. I didn't want my baby to interfere with my work. So I plan to have a child as much as you can in a non-election year. So that I wouldn't, what do they always say? Jump ship, drop the ball, all those stupid cliches that they would throw at me in the newsroom. And so that I would be a present, only gone 3 months, and there wouldn't be an election cycle, and I wouldn't miss work. Okay. So anyway, P.S. 5 months.
For viewers listening, can we just talk about how men don't have to make those decisions? Okay. And
sure, I was the only female in the newsroom.
Oh my God. All right. Another point made. So, okay.
And then I'm 5 months pregnant and I get laid off.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, I knew this part of the story. Now that I think about that.
You did. But but that company had a history of laying off pregnant women. And I'm like, but I'm not even on your health insurance. Like, leave me alone. Just let me do my work. But no. So it's okay, because within about a week, at 5 months pregnant, the local newspaper scoops me up. They're like, can you come work for us? I'm like, sure. So I made $4,000 the entire year, but I had something to call my own. My first day on the job, I got a front page above the fold story because their school district was going to hell in a handbasket, and I was on the school district beat. Anyway, fast forward a year, I have my kid. My husband gets a job in Phoenix, Arizona. So we move. And let me know if this is going too slowly. Basically, I was like, I could get a job in journalism and pay a nanny more money than I'm making, or I could do what's really sort of tapping on my heart, which is to design and manufacture breastfeeding clothing. So that's what I did. And right. So became an entrepreneur, Googled my way, didn't know what I was doing, but I figured, you know what? None of this is brain surgery. I can figure it out. And I sold my clothes on Amazon, Nordstrom.com for several years, boutiques across North America. And then my fatal flaw was I hired somebody to help me with my marketing. Mm. And she was emotionally, verbally abusive, and she would tell me how boring I was, and she couldn't believe I had a master's degree in journalism, and how can I be so boring? Anyway, so after a year of being berated to the point where I had no, I was a shadow of my former self, and I had paid her $25,000, I was like, I can't even go into my office room in my house anymore. I couldn't even go in there. It was too much. Shut the business, got out, and I thought, okay, what can I do now? Because I have to do something. And I decided to help people with their marketing so that no one would ever be where I was at that point. And I could always advocate for people and show them that they too have the power to do it.
Yeah. So
just like I was telling you, Allie, right before we went on, that you're like, well, maybe I should hire this person. Maybe I should hire this person. I'm like, no, you know exactly what you need to do to let everybody know how amazing Dear Universe is. Can you hold it up, please?
Oh, look at her. She's like shamelessly plugging.
There it is.
There it is.
And if you haven't gotten a copy of this book, I highly suggest that you do. You will laugh. You will cry. It's better than Cats. And and it's available on Amazon and where books are sold. And it's really fun. And then, what's amazing is I didn't feel like I knew Allie as well as I do now because I've read her book. Now, all of a sudden, she let me into her life. And you can get that too when you read that book. So I'm going to go back to what I was talking about, which is that I am here to empower people with their book marketing. And I didn't know I was going to work with authors, but they started coming to me, and it was just a perfect fit. And Dear Universe, available on Amazon or where books are sold.
Hey, Susan. I see that Susan's with us this morning. She just posted into the comments. It's so good. She's referring to Dear Universe. I'll be sure to put in Dear Universe's link a little later on into the comments for folks. Melanie, thank you for plugging the book. So when Melanie and I first met, I think we initially hit it off because as we were talking about our individual stories, there was something that we had in common. And the thing that we had in common was that we were both let go while we were pregnant. So I don't remember how many months along I was when I found out that the company was being acquired and we were all being let go that coming Thanksgiving, which was 2 weeks past my due date. So I think we found out in July. I was due in November. So what is that, like 6 months, 7 months, whatever. But around the same time that Melanie would have been being let go from her gig. And I think we initially—
What year was that? I wonder if it was the same year.
So that would have been 2015.
Oh, okay. Mine was 2011. I was let go in June and due in November. Yep.
Okay. All right. So yeah, so we bonded over that and obviously over books. And I've only ever known Melanie in the capacity of book marketing. And so that is really today's topic, is book marketing. Now, here's what I have found, and this is why I brought Melanie on here, is in the work that I do with clients, which is really either coaching them to write the book themselves or ghostwriting it for them. I stop when the manuscript is done. And then I help them get it to the next stage. So I help them connect with their press or their publisher, or I help them connect with whoever it is that they need: cover designer, proofreaders, editors, whatever it is. But what happens is, naturally, as we're going through the manuscript, clients want to know, well, what do I do next? What do I do eventually? What do I do after, right? They're thinking like way down the road, and marketing scares the shit out of them.
Everybody.
Not like the publishing necessarily. And by the time we're done with the manuscript, they're no longer scared of the manuscript because they're feeling empowered by their story. They're feeling really good about what they're saying, whatever it is. But marketing, the actual idea that they have to promote the thing that they've now worked on and then get it out there to sell, like all of a sudden they're like, you mean it's not going to sell itself? Like it's not going to just be on a shelf and people are just going to find it? No, it's not like that. And so I often tell people that, like, think of your book like a small business, right? You need a plan. You need to think of the fact that it's a product. You have to sell the product, right? You have to know how you're going to collect the money for the product. You need to know how you're going to promote the message around the product, like all of those things. But what I want to know from Melanie's perspective is like, what would be like your one or two main kind of frames of reference or insights or perspectives into book marketing kind of generally, and then like take it one step deeper and give us like your 3 favorite book marketing tips.
Okay. So let me start with what I do, which is bridging that gap between publishing and publicity. So a lot of authors, once they get to the publishing part, they're like, oh my God, now I need a publicist so I can get on, I always use this example, the Today Show. I'm going to be on the Today Show. That's what I want to do. Well, what happens is if you get on the Today Show, but you have no online presence, you're not going to sell any books. And I know this because I've talked to people for whom this has happened, where I know a woman who paid a lot of money. She worked with a publicist for an entire year. And she got on 18 different media outlets, including a big time morning show. And I said, how many books have you sold? And she said 100. And I was like, oh. And then I looked at her website and I looked at her socials and I went, oh, I know why. Yeah. And the answer is her messaging was so vague that it was clear to me that anybody who found her on any other media outlet would have gone to check her out, because people only go and check you out, but they check you out before they make a purchase at least 7 times. And, oh, good, you have how you can buy it. So they go and they check you out. And what happened was when people got to her site or her socials, they were like, I don't know what this person does. I don't know what the book's about. I don't understand how this book is going to help me. And they left. And that's money down the toilet. So when I work with clients, it's to help you create your messaging and your online presence so that it's so easy for people to go, oh my God, I love Allie. I want to know more about her. And then they go to your social and they're like, oh, wow, look, she wrote this book. She does this. Oh, I want to get this book because then I'm going to get blah, blah, blah. So that's the goal, right? So then your question really was, what's one big thing that people can do, right? The answer is you wouldn't, I'm going to say it in a riddle. You wouldn't plan a party and then not invite guests.
I love that.
So
all right, everybody, that's the goal right there for today. You wouldn't
start inviting people to the effing party, people. Okay.
All right, I'm going to put that in the comments for everyone.
Start inviting people to the party. Excuse me. I got so excited I choked. So now I have a couple of ways that I help people, actually more than that. But so I work with people one-on-one, but I'm also launching a program that people can do on their own. And I've even written a book on it.
Woohoo!
Coming out very soon. And
Okay.
it's called, I'm like announcing it for the first time. It's called You Wrote the Book, Now What? A nonfiction author's guide to amplifying your authority. That is my book, people. And I'm announcing it here. Yay!
Wrote the book, Now What? A nonfiction author's guide to
amplifying your authority.
Amazing.
So that is my book, and that is coming out. And so now what can you do to do your marketing? Okay. 3 things you said you want. I'm trying to answer the questions that are sort of floating around in the ether here.
Yeah.
So one thing you can do is tell people regularly. Because a lot of people say, well, I posted one time and so that should work. No, only when you start to feel like a broken record. If you are too young to know what that means, it just means that you're repeating yourself over, oh. Kind of like if you're buffering, So as soon as you start repeating yourself, as soon as you start to feel like that broken record, that's when it starts to work. And then you got to keep doing it.
Yeah.
So never stop saying the same thing over and over again. So that's number 1. And I'm going to just go into that a little bit more because I'm going to say, well, I'm afraid that if I say the same thing over and over again, people are going to get bored of it. No, they're not, because there's so much noise coming at them. The only thing that's going to happen is it's going to sink in. Do you think the people who make those terrible commercials, in the US, this is where I live, we only get drug commercials now. There are no other kinds of commercials. I go to Canada, where I'm from, and they have like funny, thought-provoking commercials because they're not allowed to have drug commercials. Ours are all drug commercials, and they all have those terrible jingles.
Yep. And then end with the and may experience nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, boils,
or death. There's always death.
Always the possibility of really horrific things, and then also death. And then you're like, hey, no, I really can't wait.
Your head might explode, but look at us on the river. We're fishing.
We know you really want to yank your underwear out of your butt because God knows what's happening down there, but you look really peaceful. It's fine.
And they just keep hammering that home. They don't stop. They don't worry about how many times you're going to see that commercial.
Yep. Yeah.
It's the same thing. And those commercials are not providing value the way what you are doing is. So that's number 1. Oh gosh, it's early.
Segment of this whole thing.
Oh gosh, it's early. Okay. Number 2 would be diving deep into your mission. Because sometimes it's hard to come up with something interesting. Not gonna lie, I'm in a LinkedIn pod, and this morning at 6, I thought, oh crap, I forgot to write a post for this pod. And so what did I do? Remembered my mission, quickly wrote a post, and I'm very happy with the result, because ultimately you wrote a book for a reason.
Yeah.
Always remember what that is. and keep inviting people to enroll in that mission. So even when you are feeling like, oh, I have nothing to say, wrong, you wrote a whole book on it. You have a gold mine.
I love that. Invite people to enroll in that mission. Like, that's beautiful. Okay, great. I've got it in the comments ready to fire off.
Okay. So number one, let's review. Number one,
tell people right away. To dive deep into your mission and get people to enroll in that mission.
Right. Okay. And then number three is this is going to be silly, obvious, but the call to action. Always have a call to action. Always be leading people to the next place. And it doesn't have to be, buy my program, because remember, there are many touch points along a client journey. So people aren't necessarily going to go from, oh, look, Allie, I'm watching you live on LinkedIn. Oh, now I'm going to go buy your $20,000 program. No, it doesn't necessarily, it could happen like that, but in general,
yeah,
it doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
So, but the great thing about a book is that it's a low ticket item that really gives you that know, like, and trust factor. It really builds your credibility. It provides value. And for, I don't know what your book is, but for $18.99, tell us, how much is your book?
$14.99 and then tax.
$14.99. Holy moly. Okay. So for $14.99, you can get so much value and so much insight and actually enjoy yourself.
Yeah.
It's not like, something not fun. You get to read this really fun book.
That looks like $35 on a bra that you can, wear.
Yeah, and then the underwires are poking you. And then you end up yanking the wires out entirely. Anyway, I digress. So call to action. What could that be? That could be grab a copy of the book, or maybe you have a lead magnet, which I hope you do. Get a copy of the lead. You wouldn't say lead magnet, but get your complimentary copy of my ultimate book marketing checklist, for example, which you guys can get. And even if it's, drop a comment below and tell me, what do you think about X, Y, and Z? So you're always leading people to the next place, because then you get to engage. Oh yeah, there we go. VIPdigital.live/check. So then you can get people engaged.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give you like 3.5 or 3B is engage with those people. After they engage with you, remember to engage with them, because marketing is not a one-way street. Advertising is. Marketing is not.
I'm so glad that you just said that. I was having this conversation with a client recently, and we were talking about like readers' experiences. And she was thinking that by the time her book comes out in a few more months, that the people that are reading it now, like the people who have bought an advanced copy because she had, a handful of like pre-orderable versions from her press, that they wouldn't remember. But these were people that she sold directly to at a show. And I said, you know what? I actually think that because it's memoir and it's nonfiction and people know that it's your story and they've now put a face with the name, because you've had a conversation with them, they're going to remember your book more because of the relationship, even if it was just for those 5 minutes that you spoke to them in person, over the random book that they picked up off on the shelf on a whim, where they have no connection to the author. They've never met them. They don't know them from anything else in their book. And especially with fiction, right? You don't necessarily get attached to fiction, I think, in a way that you get attached to people's stories that are real when you're reading memoir, right? Because you feel for the person who's been through that experience that they're writing about. And it made me think of what you just said, like, don't go away. If somebody is writing on your post, right, online about what your book is about, engage with them, because they're going to remember that you took the time to actually write back to them. I found this actually when Dear Universe first came out, and people would comment on like the hype I was building before the book actually launched, where they would send direct messages, right? Yeah. And I would write back and they would be like, oh my God, I can't believe you wrote back, and I'm like, well, yeah. Like, to me, it was like a no-brainer. Like, that's the human thing to do. It's the polite thing to do. It's, you're wanting to celebrate with me. I don't know who you are, but like, I'm excited that you're excited about what I'm doing, even though we don't know each other. And I think it's also a part of there's something about authors that's still very like mysterious and sexy to people. Like, oh, you wrote a book? No way. Like there's this kind of like clout or like posh luxe, I don't know, kind of thing about writing a book that like draws people in. And so when you've written a book and then you respond to these people, they feel like they've gotten like inside the VIP club or something.
It's so true. And I love that you said humanity, the human thing to do, because so often people forget to inject the humanity in their marketing. And, aside from television, which in my opinion is the only medium where people gather around it, everywhere else it's one-on-one. So you send an email and it's not like, hey guys aren't opening the email. It's one guy. So remember that in your all your marketing, it's really to one person at a time. Yeah. So speak to that person. And when I want to go back to that author you were talking about with who wrote a memoir, we as humans, humanity again, we remember things through story. We see ourselves in stories. History, which should be herstory, if you ask me, is stories. And so there's absolutely no reason for you to think that it's not going to be memorable. If anything, it's going to become part of the reader.
Right.
They might not remember the name of your book, but they'll remember how you made them feel.
Yeah, which is so important, right? That's the most important thing. That's the thing that I'm always telling clients is like, let's stop thinking about books trying to impact the masses. If your book impacts the masses, amazing, great, bonus. But like, let's try to make sure that two things happen. Absolutely. One, that you feel empowered and liberated and free of whatever you've been carrying around, the thing that you've been called to say, the story that has been on your back, the adversity that you've overcome, whatever it is. So let's write a book that you're proud of that makes you feel liberated. And let's also write it to one person who needs it. Because if you can make one person think differently or act differently or change their life or whatever it is, isn't one person enough? Isn't one person worth it? Because essentially that one person will inevitably tell one other person that they know who also needs it. And we set off a ripple effect, right? And so I feel like your book is really for the one first and then the many, one first. And I feel like what you're saying too is with marketing, it's the same way. Think about marketing your book to the one. And when you get in the habit of speaking to the one, you're going to be in the habit of speaking to the many, right? You're going to get better at it when you can actually just focus on that kind of genuine human conversation or relationship around your book, when you're really just thinking about like speaking to Melanie versus speaking to the great group of people over here that are faceless and nameless, right? Like stop shouting out into a crowd, find the people that you can actually speak to directly and speak to them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So tell us, what's one thing that really pisses you off about the industry or book marketing in general? Is there anything that pisses you off?
Oh my God. Okay. So what pisses me off is that authors are regularly told, oh, your lead magnet should just be the first chapter of your book. And I just want to go, no.
Okay.
No, don't do that. Because again, we talked about your client journey, your reader journey, your customer journey, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
We meet you for the first time. You want to give them the first chapter of your book? Is that the best chapter of your book? Is that going to show them how great you are? Is it going to provide them a quick win to show that, hey, they need to know you more? No. And I remember talking to somebody once and she said, well, they also said to include their table of contents. I was like, who's ever found that exciting? In a million years, here's my table of content. Oh, please. No. So the way I see it, so an example would be, let's say you're a life coach and you've written a book on how to have, work-life balance, for example. Well, what would come before that? Maybe it's how to start your day. 5 things to set yourself up for a great day. That's the first thing. And then you give them that that quick win. They can do it in the next 48 hours and see, wow, she knows what she's talking about.
Yeah.
And then, with your email sequence, you warm them up, you nurture them, and then you go, and hey, guess what? I have a book. And it's called Dear Universe, and you can get it right here. No, so then you say, I have a book, and you can read more and get even more great stuff. And then maybe you have a program that's based on your book. And then people go, well, I love what she wrote in the book. I really want to sign up for the program too. So that's the journey of it all. And when you give away the first chapter of your book, you're losing the opportunity. So that's what really pisses me off.
Okay. That's a great one. That's awesome. I love that. What about one of your favorite book marketing stories? So is there any kind of like thing from a client or anything that you're working on now for your own book that's like got you completely jazzed? You thought it was so cool. You wish everybody could do it.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So I have a client, and his book is about olive oil. And you think like, oh, olive oil. Okay, whatever. But no, it's actually like scary that the majority of the olive oil that we buy in American grocery stores is either mislabeled, tampered with, or completely rancid. And we don't even know, because before working with him, I didn't know what good olive oil was. So he's on a mission to empower consumers, and like a one-man mission, literally. And so I've been working with him for about 7 months now, and I helped him, set up his online presence, which is beautiful and robust now, if I do say so myself. And and then he started working with a publicist too. So the publicist gets him on some big shows, and now, so it's all working beautifully. His book came out. We had a book launch 2 weeks ago today. And before the launch, he had 1,200 pre-orders of the book.
Oh my gosh. Amazing. Amazing. 1,200 people who care about olive oil. At least, because he's still going. Yeah. Yeah.
And that is the beauty of what you can do with your marketing.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. I love it. Now look, as Melanie started the story, right? She said, and it's about olive oil. You would think that wouldn't be very exciting, but he has made it his mission. He's made it exciting. He's obviously convinced 1,200 people that they need to know what's inside this book, right? So like anything's possible when you're like devoted to your mission and you know what you're doing, right? When you know how to work the online game, right?
It's true. And it's not even, you don't even have to think of it as a game that you have to win. I would say it's sort of a way of life. You should try to embrace the marketing, because it's like the extension of you. You're an author now. This book is your baby. So a lot of people, you have a baby, you don't like leave it and let it raise itself. You have to raise the baby.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what your marketing is. It's raising your baby. And it takes a village.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I love that too. So one of the things I always tell clients when they've never written a book before and they don't know anything about writing a book is that I call it the book's life cycle is essentially like raising a child. And I say that the first stage is conception. It's when you first get the idea of the book. And then when you're working on the manuscript is when you're carrying the child, right? It's like the 10 months, like to labor, and publication is labor. And then everything after labor and delivery is basically rearing, and you're rearing it the rest of your life, because now it's there and it's not going to go away. You don't just expect it to, as you said, raise itself. So this is why I brought Melanie on, y'all, because Melanie and I are sisters from another mister. Okay.
100%.
All right. So tell us, before we wrap up here, how do you specifically love to work with authors? And I'm going to pop your website and your LinkedIn connection into the comments for people so they can go direct to your site. So tell us how you like to work with them.
Awesome. So I have two ways that I work with people. I work one-on-one in a 6-month container where we kind of do it, done with you styles. And I am launching a new program, which is all video with amazing modules, and it's a go at your own pace. And that's going to be launching next month. And I'm so, so excited. And that's called Amplify Your Authority.
Oh, look, see, all right. So Melanie is proving out exactly what she talked to us about earlier, right? Her subtitle of her book that's coming out, right, is that Amplify Your Authority. So now she's created a program based off of the book's material, right? This is how
they're all interchangeable. I live, breathe. I think I dream about them every night. I don't know. It just oozes out of me to amplify your authority.
She knows her shit. She's walking the talk. She's not lip service, y'all. All right. So you want to visit Melanie's website. All right. I put it in the comments. It's also here in this banner. You want to connect with Melanie on LinkedIn. All right. Go follow her, know about all the things, grab her freaking ultimate book marketing checklist, get on her list, follow her, understand what she's all about. She's going to help you with your book. All right. Go, 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 go. Do all the things. All right. And all the information on Melanie is inside the comments. Melanie, thank you so much for being with us today. Is there anything else that you want to shout out for our audience before we wrap up?
I want you to remember, first of all, thank you, Allie, for having me here. But I want you all to remember, or you personally, you, everybody who's watching, you're one person. I want you to remember that sometimes it can get a little bit, scary and overwhelming. Just pick up your book and find something in it that you think you want to tell people about. And go ahead and put that out in the world. And you'll see people are going to start responding.
Amazing, 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 amazing. So we do have, and I don't know who it is because in the comments, it just says LinkedIn user.
Yes.
They say, maybe it's just my title, but I've struggled to get any PR with my memoir. Do you want to speak to that briefly before we
Absolutely. And I highly doubt that it's the title. It's probably the messaging associated with it. So
okay.
I don't, when you say I've struggled to get any PR, I mean, that could be, that's kind of like a big open-ended, what kind of PR is it? Just with media outlets? Is it getting traction on social media? Is it growing your email list? I don't know, but you can have a title that doesn't mean anything. And still, as long as your messaging associated really speaks to your ideal reader, tells them why they should care. Because whenever somebody's online, all we're thinking, even if it's subconsciously, is what's in it for me. Yeah. So as long as you can answer that question, oh, good, the ins and outs of my vagina.
Oh,
half the population has a vagina, right? So what is in it for me? I'm going to ask you that question. So why would I want to read the ins and outs of my vagina?
And that definitely, you're not getting PR because your title is freaking fantastic.
Not the
title. Not the title. So, all right. Well, I'm glad. I'm assuming that this is Karen. I think it's Karen. That you posted in here, Karen. I hope that you've gotten some things from this conversation with Melanie. And so what I'm going to do is just say, look at that messaging and figure out if you're doing the things that Melanie is suggesting. Otherwise, we're highly encouraging you to connect with Melanie, follow Melanie in all the places. So you can learn more her perspectives on book marketing because she's the shit. And you definitely want to be wherever she's at. Okay. So thanks everyone for joining us. Thanks for everyone who catches the replay, post in the comments, #replay. If you catch it there. And please, everyone, join me next week. We're going to have another episode of Open Book Broadcast next Tuesday, July 5th at 10:15 a.m. EST. And check out those comments for all the places where you can connect with Melanie. All right. Bye, everyone.